Welcome back to the Fight Report. Host Sean Lennon. One of our favorite parts of this show is we are going to give our predictions for the UFC Fight Night. This is going to be an exciting night of fights coming on October 10th. Sandhagen and Moraes is the main event, and I feel like this is going to be a fun night of fights. So we'll get right into it. I'll talk about my picks for the top 4 or 5 fights every weekend, and we're going to be talking about also what we can find out in terms of betting. If you guys like to make some money off the fights, we will go over the odds as well. But make sure you're tuning into the Fight Report. Make sure you go to fightlete.com and spreaker.com/user/fightlete. And as we continue to go things over, we will be going over the fights every weekend. So right now we have a big night of fights. We start off with Ben Rothwell, Marcin Tybura, 265 pounds, heavyweight division. This is a fight basically between two of the baddest heavyweights on the UFC roster. Big Ben Rothwell has been, has had some numerous years off of fighting, which would have been detrimental to his career. However, recently he came back and got a big victory. The guy from Kenosha, Wisconsin, he's a big dude, but guess what? He fights smart, and his last win was over Ovince St. Preux. He's fought during the pandemic before, and he defeated him by a split decision. That was a close fight that could have went either way. When you look back at it, I just felt like OSP at heavyweight was lacking something. I think that Ben Rothwell is this is the perfect scenario for him. As he beats Marcin Tybura, he keeps moving up the ranks. If he calls out like Curtis Blades, for example, and then he beats Curtis of that Wisconsin Illinois, feud going on. He could find himself for a title shot in the future. But Marcin Tybura is a guy that you cannot be taken lightly. He is 19-6, and you look at most of his career, he finishes guys. He finishes them, and he keeps on going. He's a solid top wrestler. I feel like he's also probably in line with Curtis Blades as when the wrestling goes. Like these two are the elite of the grappling and heavyweight division. Against Sergey Spivak, he defeated by unanimous decision. His last win against Maxim Grishin was another decision victory. Looking to make it 3 in a row, and then when you climb up 3 in a row, then you get looked at and you get elevated to that next spot. So, that's what he's looking to do, is move up the rankings real quickly against Ben Rothwell, who is a veteran of the heavyweight division. I feel like both fighters are going to come at this really hard. It's going to be a war in there. I think it all determines who's going to outlast the other. I feel like Marcin Tybura has shown that he has been able to not only take down opponents with their weakness, but really, has been able to show everybody why he could be one champion one day. And I feel like this is a good fight for him to show that. I think he beats Ben Rothwell by unanimous decision. And I feel moving forward that Ben Rothwell, although one of the toughest guys, right? I just think that the game may have passed him by, but we'll see. We'll see. This is a big test. Is he going to let Tybura walk right through him, the younger guy, and get that title shot, or will 38-year-old Big Ben Rothwell, lay stake to claim that he belongs in the elite of the heavyweight division? So that's what's to be determined. I think that it's going to be an exciting fight. And then we also have 2 other good fighters on the card. Edson Barbosa, Marcin Americana. Edson Barbosa, we have not seen him fight since he lost to Dan Ige. In the featherweight division, he did not look like this was the division he was supposed to be at. He's a 155-pound guy. It didn't yield the result he wanted, but we'll see. He has another chance to come back in there and make it against another guy who's 16-4. Americana impressed me in his last fight. He won by a vicious submission victory, and Americana is a guy that, basically when this fight hits the ground, Barbosa is not the kind of guy that has that well-versed, wrestling to take out Americana. He does have jiu-jitsu, but Americana is very clever when it comes to these submissions, and his Anaconda choke, which he's performed twice in the past year, has yielded that result, when he defeated Danny Henry. He's a tough guy to figure out on the ground. Edson Barbosa has to keep the fight standing to have a chance. I just think that Barbosa's a guy who is past his prime. I think that if he was going to be UFC fight champion, he would have already done it by now in the 155-pound division. But he always fell when he had the tough, when he had the opportunities, he always fell. When he had the opportunities, he dropped the ball. So I feel moving forward that we're going to have Edson Barbosa is not going to win this fight. Although he's a great fighter. I mean, he's had wins over Anthony Pettis. He's had wins over other tough guys as well, like Paul Felder at the 145 pound. I just think it was a little too late for him to do that. I think Americana gets this win, and by submission. I'm going to go with Americana by submission. The main event is Marlon Moraes, Cory Sandhagen. There's a lot of division. There's a lot on the line in this division. And with this fight, this could be possibly the next number one contender for Peter Yan, who now holds the 135-pound title. For Moraes, coming into this fight, he just beat Jose Aldo, who was the number one contender. It was a controversial fight, though, and many thought that Aldo had done enough to beat him in that one. For Cory Sandhagen, coming in and taking on his toughest guy today in Aljamain Sterling. Sterling submitted him in the first round. Sandhagen, who is really at 12-2, just has, racked up wins, all in a row against former top contenders like Rafael Assunção and John Lineker. And, has finished guys as well. I mean, he's where he should be at in his career at his age. And a loss to Sterling, I think he can learn more. It's then being detrimental. For Marlon Moraes, it's all about capitalizing on Cory Sandhagen's last mistake. And Moraes, who is well-versed on the ground, a BJJ black belt, standing up, he's got a lot of great striking. He's got, the tools to put guys away. But he fell short when he took on Henry Cejudo. And he had Henry Cejudo hurt, and he did not finish him. Cejudo came back and finished him. He's had wins over Assunção, who he submitted. Jimmy Rivera, Aljamain Sterling, who has a win over Sandhagen, and John Dodson. It's hard to argue with Marlon Moraes because his last fight was against Jose Aldo, the former champion of the 145-pound weight class. I think that helps him in this regard. It's going to be a tough fight, but I think Marlon Moraes has what it takes to beat Cory Sandhagen. On the other hand, I don't know if Cory Sandhagen is gonna lose twice in a row. That's the thing too. So I don't see Cory Sandhagen losing twice in a row. It's one of those fights. It's a kind of a toss up to me. I personally think that Marlon Moraes probably should be number one contender for the championship, since the champion is no longer Henry Cejudo. I would like to see Peter Yan against Marlon Moraes. I'm going for him in this fight, but again, it's a hard one to fix because I don't see Cory Sandhagen losing twice in a row. I just think that first loss, it's a detrimental loss. Being undefeated, you're gonna learn from it and fix what mistakes that come back. But we'll see. I think it's going to be a fun fight, and I think Marlon Moraes wins it. It's going to be a close fight, and he might edge him out by decision. It may be a fight where, Cory Sandhagen has the opportunity to take him to the ground and lock on one of those submission holds. Also, Moraes has got heavy hands too, so it could end in either way. I'm going to leave it open in this one. I'm giving Marlon Moraes. I'm not saying how he's going to win. I just think it's going to be one of those fights. They're both very tricky, especially Cory Sandhagen when he gets on that ground. I just think that his ground game is very tricky to deal with, and Moraes has to pressure him early on to make this fight go his way. But I'm getting Marlon Moraes this fight. I'm excited to see these two take on each other and one-on-one in 135-pound division, and you never know. I could totally call this wrong, and Sandhagen just dominates Moraes from bell to bell. It's just one of those fights. It's hard to predict when these guys are the level that they're operating on, and you've seen them. Their past performances speak for themselves. So, but that's it for UFC Fight Night. Moraes versus Sandhagen. Check it out. Those are my top 3 fights on the fight card. It's another amazing fight card. We look down at the fight card and see some of the fighters on the undercard. We have Tracy Cortez I think this is her official UFC debut against Stephanie Egger in the 135-pound division. That's going to be exciting. She won on Contender Series. Also, other fights on the card we have is, that I can remember, is Youssef Zalal against Ilya Topuria, and that is going to be a fun one. Youssef Zalal has been getting it done, 10-2. He is training now at Factory X Muay Thai. A guy that, you know, basically in this division, he could be the next contender. So he's got 4 wins in a row, 3 of them straight in a row in the UFC since he's been there this year. He's only fought this year, and he's had 3 wins in a row. That's crazy, and he's fighting again. So this is his 4th fight within a year of being in the UFC, and he started out in February. So Youssef Zalal is definitely a guy to pay attention to in this one, the Moroccan Devil, and he's taking on Ilya Topuria, who is an 8-0 guy, making his UFC debut. So that's one of the highlights of this undercard. If you're going to watch any of the fights in the undercard, I recommend watching Youssef Zalal against Ilya Topuria. I think it's going to be one of the fights that are going to be, you don't want to miss, right? So it's on the undercard, but that's one that people are going to be talking about after it happens. You know, this is a card that really doesn't have a lot of fighters that are well known and recognizable, but I could see some top contenders coming out of it, especially when you have Zalal, you have Marcin Americana on the card as well. You know, Tybura, who I think is going to move up the rankings in heavyweight, and then Moraes and Sandhagen. Definitely contenders for the belt coming out of it, even though it's not the most recognizable stat card. But that's it for this week's edition. Fightlete Report. Everybody check out fightlete.com, Spreaker.com/user/Fightlete for our podcast and the Fightlete Report. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and make sure to check out our Facebook Live stuff as well. Take care, guys.